second category is graphic depictions, violence, or gore, which again, given the nature of this story taking place in Auschwitz, it is a very important topic. And yes, we are back for another Christian review of regular books, and today we are discussing The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Let's get into it. For those of you who haven't seen one of these videos before, first I do my regular review, what I personally thought of the book, my star rating, etc. But then we get into my Christian review, and that's where I go over basic pieces of a book that may or may not have a fellow believer or anyone wanting to read it. I have a video pinned to the top of my playlist which gives way more detail about my Christian reviews, or there should be a box somewhere, so you can click on over there. Also, if you're still here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can stay up to date on everything happening on our channel. Not only do we have Christian reviews of regular books coming out 4 to 5 times a week, we also have my Mom and Mai's podcast, which comes out twice a month. Now let's go ahead and get into my regular review. The Tattooist of Auschwitz was one that I ended up listening to solely on audio. This was one of the first experiences I had where I chose to do an audio only book. Usually I would do a mix of like audio and reading with my eyes depending on what I was doing and when I had the moment. Now, I was just coming off of The Nightingale and the high that was reading The Nightingale, but truly I am such a fan of World War II historical fictions in print or in TV. I also love real stories coming out of World War II and learning more about the people that actually experienced these atrocities. So getting to pick up The Tattooist of Auschwitz had me so excited, but minorly nervous that it wasn't gonna live up to the hype. Thankfully, it absolutely did, and I had a blast and just total interest reading it. I would not put it down. I can vividly remember picking up that audiobook at like every spare second of my day. I was so obsessed with it. And I still think about the characters in this book consistently. What I found even more interesting was that the show had come out around the same time, which is why I chose to pick up the audiobook and listen to it. But the show is considered to be slightly more accurate historically than the book even was. Now, the author of the book did go and speak to the characters from this book, changed their name, did all that sort of things, but it is a very true story about a real tattooist in Auschwitz. And in the book, she changed a few things to make it applicable to the story and to tell the overarching story of the romance and the relationship dynamics and the character dynamics. However, the show, having a bit more time to create something, actually took more realness of what actually happened in Auschwitz. So both of them tell a very graphic, very compelling, very intense story about what was truly happening in these concentration camps, and that less than 100 years ago, we were treating people like this on a regular basis in these camps. Although heart-wrenching and painful to read, the reality of it was so beautifully stated, and I'm so glad that I got to read the story. I rated it 5 stars, just absolutely chef's kiss obsessed. Before we jump into my Christian review, I just want to remind you that all of my ways of contacting me are down below. You can follow me on Goodreads where you can see everything I'm reading and rating in real time. And then I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and I have my own YouTube channel, which goes over my more daily reading or life journey. If you're wanting to follow me in any of those places, you can check out down below. Now let's go ahead and get into my Christian review. The first category is smut or spice because I just think it's an important topic to always address and it's very popular, and there is none in this book. Now it is considered fade to black, which means that there's nothing explicitly stated, but there is romance throughout this story, believe it or not. And so that you have an understanding it's happening, but nothing explicitly described. The second category is graphic depictions, violence, or gore, which again, given the nature of this story taking place in Auschwitz, it is a very important topic. And yes, it is extraordinarily graphic. More graphic than a lot of books that I tend to read, but realistic. This is the reality of what was happening to people, to not only Jewish people, but primarily Jewish people in Auschwitz and other similar concentration camps. And so it didn't feel over the top. It didn't feel unnecessarily gory. It just felt honest to the storyline. It is truly heartbreaking and hard to read, and it's a sad reality of what happened. But I think it's a good history lesson of truly what was going on in these camps. I would say the right age demographic is probably 15, 16 and up. Yes, it has some graphic depictions. However, this is the time in which teenagers are often learning about World War I and World War II. This is a time in which they are learning about our history. And so I think it's a great time for them to also read stories that will keep them engaged and interested, even in the intensity that it is. Please know that we don't want to end the conversation here. I'd love to know your thoughts if you read the book or watched the TV show or both, so let us know down below in the comments. And if you're wanting to have a more private or in detail conversation, you can always send us an email at hello@trochia.org. I cannot wait to see you on the next one.